It's not like I have a training camp to like build up to like playing my first game again. It's like, no, like you're tossed into game 30. Like
Caitlin Clark is not just another player. She's the face of the WNBA. Her extraordinary skills, leadership, and the drama surrounding her absence have made her one of the most recognizable names in basketball today. When Clark went down with a hamstring injury, the entire WNBA felt it. The Fever's season took a major hit, and so did the league's visibility. It's not just about her being a dominant player on the court, it's about how her presence influences the narratives, the viewership, and the very heart of the game itself. But now news is buzzing. Caitlin Clark might be making a comeback sooner than expected, and with it, all eyes are back on the WNBA. Will she lead the Fever back to glory, or will the pressure of her return become too much? As her recovery continues to unfold, the big question remains: will she be the hero Indiana and the league need, or is it all happening too fast? There's more at stake than just basketball in this high-stakes drama. Clark is back. And no, this isn't a coincidence. The WNBA is in total panic mode, and Fever fans are losing their minds. Clark's comeback isn't just big for Indiana, it's a seismic shift for the entire league. When Clark left the court, the WNBA lost its star power. The narrative of the season, the ticket sales, the TV deals, and even the online conversations all revolved around one player. Her return, as expected, is stirring things up. While the Fever have been trying to scrape together their season with backups and makeshift rosters, no one has been able to fill the void left by Clark. It's been hard to watch. The Fever's offensive game collapsed without her, and even though players like Kelsey Mitchell have stepped up, the chemistry just hasn't been the same. Without Clark drawing defenders and stretching the floor, the Fever's game has become stagnant. But now, with Clark back in the fold, everyone knows that the dynamic changes. Not only does Indiana's playoff hopes come alive again, but the entire league's energy will shift once she steps back onto the court. And the WNBA? They're in full panic mode. They know that everything rides on her comeback. Clark is the ticket to the league's survival, and they are praying she stays healthy. The videos started surfacing online. Clark is back on the court. What seemed impossible is about to happen. The moment that the first videos of Caitlin Clark back on the court went viral, the landscape of the WNBA shifted. At first, the world had been holding its breath, hoping for signs of recovery. But then the first clips emerged showing Clark not just jogging or practicing on the sidelines, but fully engaging with her teammates, running plays, making passes, and most importantly, taking shots. It was as though she had never been injured. Clark's return wasn't just a comeback, it was a seismic shift in the league's narrative. The Fever, who had spent months without their star player, now had hope again. The once bleak and uncertain path ahead had transformed into a viable playoff opportunity. Fever fans, who had resigned themselves to watching their team flounder without their superstar, were suddenly filled with hope and excitement again. Social media exploded with excitement as rumors swirled around when Clark would make her official return to the court. But the true impact of her return isn't just about the Fever's chances. It's about how her presence changes the entire WNBA dynamic. Rival teams now have to completely recalibrate their expectations. Coaches, analysts, and players from across the league had prepared for a season without Clark, and now they're scrambling to adjust their strategies. The entire narrative of the WNBA this season was constructed without Clark in the picture, but now, with her potential return, it is clear that everything has to change. The Fever's sudden resurgence is only the beginning. If Clark is able to get back to full form, her return will spark a chain reaction that touches every team. From media attention to the psychological effect on other teams' performances, no one is ready for what's about to unfold. The question everyone is now asking is, how quickly will she be able to shake off the rust, and will she truly return to the explosive player that everyone remembers? This wasn't just a simple return from injury. It's the arrival of a player who has carried the entire WNBA on her shoulders in terms of both talent and popularity. Clark represents the future of the WNBA, athletically, commercially, and culturally. As one of the most recognizable faces in women's basketball, her return isn't just a boost for the Fever, it's a resurgence for the entire league. The narrative has always been about the individual stars who can elevate the league to new heights, and Clark has the power to do exactly that. While other teams were focused on their own playoff runs, Clark's return becomes a game-changer not just for the Fever, but for the competition. Opponents can no longer treat the Fever as a non-threat. The entire playoff structure is now at risk of being overturned, and teams that were comfortably in the top spots are now looking over their shoulders. The clock is ticking, and every game Clark plays adds another layer of intensity. When the star is back, the decision isn't just about the team. It's about her career and long-term health. The decision to allow Caitlin Clark to return is not as simple as it seems. While fans, teammates, and coaches are all eager to see their star back on the court, the medical staff and the Fever's front office have been facing a dilemma. Hamstring injuries are notoriously tricky, and they can linger for months. The last thing Clark or the Fever needs is for her to rush back too soon, only to exacerbate the injury and derail her career long-term. The medical staff knows how delicate this situation is. While Clark's competitive spirit and desire to play are undeniable, her long-term health is the primary concern. There's no denying her importance to the team, but if she pushes too hard too early, she could risk far more than just the remainder of this season. A rain jury could sideline her for far longer, possibly even jeopardizing her career in the years to come. This decision becomes even more complicated when you factor in the Fever's current situation. The team is in a desperate fight for a playoff spot. Without Clark, their playoff hopes are slim, and it's clear they need her to even have a chance at a deep postseason run. But is it worth risking everything for a shot at a title this season, knowing the potential cost to Clark's future? Should the Fever allow their star to take that risk? On the other hand, Clark isn't a player who's easily held back. She's known for her toughness, and the idea of sitting out during a crucial playoff push is a tough pill for her to swallow. Every moment of the season counts, and Clark knows that her return could be the key to turning the season around. She's the kind of player who thrives in high-pressure situations, and the idea of staying on the sidelines while the Fever fight for their playoff lives is something she's not willing to accept easily. But there's also the broader issue at play: Clark's long-term future in the league. It's not just about one season, it's about her entire career. Her body, her health, and her ability to perform at the highest level are all on the line. And while the Fever need her now more than ever, is it worth the cost to push her back onto the court too soon? The question becomes, does the Fever take the cautious route, risking a quiet season without Clark, or do they roll the dice and hope that she can carry them to the playoffs, with the knowledge that a misstep could be disastrous for her future? This isn't just a debate about physical readiness, it's a conversation about what Clark means to the league. Her return is about more than just the team's playoff aspirations. It's about the face of the WNBA returning to form, and that's something the entire league is watching. The Fever are playing not only for a championship but for the preservation of their star's legacy. If Clark gets re-injured or fails to regain her previous level of dominance, the ramifications could be far-reaching for both her and the league. As much as this is a team decision, it's a personal one for Clark as well. For an athlete of her caliber, being sidelined is more than just frustrating, it's an existential challenge. Can she truly sit back and watch her team struggle without feeling compelled to help them? This emotional and psychological battle makes the decision even more complicated. There's a lot riding on her shoulders, and the pressure only continues to build with each passing day. When Clark enters the game, everything changes. The Fever suddenly has new life. As soon as Caitlin Clark steps onto the court, it's as if a switch is flipped. The entire energy of the team changes. The once disjointed and struggling Fever offense begins to click. Players like Kelsey Mitchell, who had been tasked with carrying the team on her shoulders, can finally breathe. With Clark back in the fold, Mitchell no longer has to play the role of the lone superstar. Now she has a true co-star to share the spotlight. The most immediate change comes on the offensive end. Clark is a natural playmaker, and her ability to create space for her teammates is unmatched. Her vision on the court, paired with her sharp decision-making, immediately opens up the floor for everyone else. Aaliyah Boston, who had been facing constant double teams, is now able to operate in one-on-one situations. Kelsey Mitchell, freed from the pressure of carrying the offense, begins to find better opportunities to score. But it's not just about scoring, it's about the Fever finally looking like a team again, working together and feeding off each other's energy. Clark's mere presence on the floor is an instant confidence booster for her teammates. When you're playing alongside a generational talent, you can't help but elevate your game. And that's exactly what happens. The Fever are no longer the disjointed, injury-riddled squad they were without her. They are a team with a purpose, with direction, and with the hope of a deep playoff run. Her leadership is what transforms the team the most. Clark's ability to stay calm under pressure, to lead by example, and to push her teammates to their best is something the Fever have sorely missed. The veteran players who were once struggling to keep their heads above water now have someone to rally behind. And the young players who may have been intimidated by the weight of the moment, now have a superstar to look up to. But it's not just on the offensive side of the ball. Clark's intensity and determination spread throughout the team, bolstering the Fever's defense as well. While her primary role is to dominate offensively, her presence forces everyone around her to work harder, be smarter, and play with more intensity. The psychological and tactical impact of Clark's return is nothing short of transformative. This is not the same Fever team that was limping through the season without her. With Clark back, they are a serious threat in the playoffs. Clark's return isn't just about improving the team's play, it's about resurrecting their championship aspirations. Without her, the Fever were an afterthought. Now, with her back in action, they are a legitimate contender once again. This turnaround, powered by Clark, is the stuff of sports legends. Her leadership, her basketball IQ, and her ability to inspire her teammates have put Indiana back on the map. While the Fever celebrates, WNBA rivals are in full panic mode. And you can bet they have a good reason for that. Rival teams across the league are now watching Caitlin Clark's return with a combination of dread and urgency. These teams had spent months building their strategies around the idea that Clark would be absent for the remainder of the season. Her injury had thrown a wrench into the Fever's playoff plans, and for many of these teams, it felt like an opportunity to leapfrog Indiana on the path to postseason glory. But now, with Clark returning, the entire playoff race has been upended. Teams that had comfortably positioned themselves as frontrunners are now feeling the pressure. Imagine the high-stakes environment for the Sparks, who had positioned themselves to battle for a top spot, or the Mystics, who had invested heavily in their own star power, only to realize that Clark's return could force them to recalibrate everything. The real panic lies in the uncertainty Clark's presence brings to the table. Her return isn't just a matter of one player coming back, it's about changing the entire competitive balance of the league. Let's consider how opposing coaches are preparing for the unknown. The tactical adjustments they have to make to account for Clark's return are complex and multifaceted. Clark is a dual threat, capable of both scoring and facilitating. Rival coaches must now consider how they'll contain her on offense, but also how to stop her from creating open looks for her teammates. Her mere presence will demand that defenses collapse, opening up space for others on the Fever roster, and the magnitude of that shift cannot be overstated. And then there's the issue of the league's marketing and broadcasting. Clark's return means that WNBA broadcasts, sponsors, and media outlets will direct their attention to Indiana once again, and this has a direct impact on the narrative that has been carefully constructed throughout the season. Every highlight, every piece of coverage, every commercial will have her name attached to it. It's a massive game changer that no one can ignore. Rival teams must contend not only with the Fever's rejuvenated potential but also with the new wave of media hype that Clark's return brings. Ultimately, every team now has to ask themselves, how do we match up against a Fever team that has the most marketable and dominant player in the league back in action? Clark's return isn't just a physical challenge, it's a psychological one. Teams that had been thriving off the idea that they could coast to a top seed now find themselves in the unenviable position of having to prepare for a battle they didn't expect. While the Fever's roster celebrates, other teams are sweating. Clark's presence changes the playoff dynamics completely. The shift in the playoff picture with Clark's return is more than just a simple recalibration of rosters. It's an entire paradigm shift for the WNBA. As Clark steps back into the fray, teams that had been on a collision course for the playoffs are now rethinking their strategies. Let's not forget, Clark isn't just another good player, she is a generational talent whose impact on the game goes far beyond mere statistics. First, think about the psychological impact on the Fever's competitors. The team that had been struggling without its leader is now one of the most dangerous in the league. The mere fact that Caitlin Clark is back changes the narrative for Indiana, but it also changes the narrative for every other team that is chasing a playoff berth. Teams like the Los Angeles Sparks, who had been riding a hot streak, are suddenly thrown into a pressure cooker. Their expectations just went through the roof. Let's dive deeper into the actual impact on the court. Clark's return gives the Fever something they were desperately missing, a true playmaker. This goes beyond her ability to score. Her vision and basketball IQ allow her to control the tempo of the game. Aaliyah Boston's ability to dominate inside will be enhanced by Clark's ability to spread the floor. Kelsey Mitchell, who has been shouldering much of the scoring burden in Clark's absence, will finally have the support she needs. With Clark back, Mitchell doesn't have to play superhero basketball every game, and that's a massive relief. Moreover, Clark's return forces opposing defenses to rethink their strategies entirely. The league's best defenders, who had been thriving in Clark's absence, now have to prepare to face her unique scoring ability. Her range, her step-back shots, and her ability to finish at the rim create matchup problems for every team in the league. There is no player who can be given the luxury of focusing only on the paint when Clark is out on the floor. The threat of a quick, long-range three-pointer from Clark will stretch the defense and force them to make decisions on the fly. We must also consider the broader implications of this shift in momentum. If Clark is playing at even 80% of her full potential, her presence will have a cascading effect on the Fever's overall game. She elevates the level of play for everyone around her. The players who have been stepping up in her absence, like Boston and Mitchell, will now have greater opportunities to shine. Clark is not a player who demands the spotlight just for herself. She uses her game to uplift the entire team. Her leadership, her confidence, and her unshakable belief in the team will raise their play to new heights. The immediate question, however, is whether the Fever can maintain this newfound momentum throughout the entire playoff stretch. Will Clark be fully prepared physically? Will the team's chemistry continue to build as the stakes rise? Only time will tell, but what is certain is that the return of Caitlin Clark has changed the game for everyone involved. It's not just the Fever's season that's at stake. It's the future of the entire WNBA. As we look at the broader picture, Clark's return isn't just about one season or one team. It's about the future of the WNBA itself. The league's reliance on its stars, especially Clark, has never been more evident. The stakes for the entire league have been elevated, and this is not just a battle for playoff seeding. It's a battle for relevance, for maintaining momentum, and for ensuring that the WNBA remains in the spotlight. Consider how much of the WNBA's growth has been tied to individual stars like Caitlin Clark. While the league has been steadily improving its reach and fan base, nothing generates the kind of excitement that a Clark comeback does. Her story, her rise to prominence, and the sheer impact she has on every game she plays in is something that transcends just basketball. It speaks to a new generation of fans who are eager to see history unfold before their eyes. Without her, the WNBA may have struggled to maintain its momentum, especially in a season marked by so many unexpected twists. Now, imagine if Clark returns and leads the Fever on a playoff run. The media coverage would be intense, the viewership would skyrocket, and the narrative would shift from one of uncertainty to one of triumph. This could be the story of the year, of a team overcoming adversity with the ultimate hero, Caitlin Clark, leading them to a potential championship. The WNBA would be thrust into the spotlight, its stars at the forefront of national conversations once again. Every game would feel like a must-watch event, and every move Clark makes would be analyzed and dissected by fans and pundits alike. But the alternative is equally dramatic. If Clark comes back too soon, if she's not able to return to full form, or if she suffers a setback with her injury, the league faces a very different narrative. The WNBA could find itself back in a position where its stars aren't dominating the headlines and where its playoff picture becomes less interesting. Fans would be disappointed, media attention would wane, and the league would lose a significant portion of its shine. The stakes couldn't be higher. And let's not forget the financial aspect. The WNBA has been working tirelessly to build partnerships with major brands, to increase television viewership, and to expand its footprint globally. A strong, visible, and healthy Caitlin Clark is a key asset in this mission. If she is playing at her best, sponsors will flock to the league, media rights deals will be renegotiated, and brands will once again see value in associating themselves with women's basketball. Her return could not only save a season for the Fever but could fundamentally alter the course of the WNBA's growth.
It's not like I have a training camp to like build up to like playing my first game again. It's like, no, like you're tossed into game 30. Like